Welcome to the 17th episode of Generation Gap Book Reviews. I'm Christy the mom.
And I'm Elena the daughter.
In this episode, we are going to be reviewing starting with the first book in the Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children series, which is called Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. We're going to spend most of our time on that first book, but then I will briefly go over the rest of the series because this is a series, and I won't tell you why yet, but you'll probably figure it out that we will not be revisiting in this podcast. Well, Lena, would you like to tell us what brought you to read this book?
I think you recommended it to me.
No, I really don't think I did.
Oh, I don't know how then.
Was this not a book club book?
Nope. This was not a book club book.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I read it in February of last year. I don't know why.
February is a book club time.
Yeah, but I'm fairly certain it was not a book club book.
You know, is it possible then that you had seen it on my shelves and you thought it looked interesting?
No, because you don't have it anymore, and I don't think you had it then, because I had to get it from the library.
Then, if I was willing to get rid of it, then why would I have recommended it to you?
That's the question.
Did Aunt Sarah recommend it to you?
You know what? Actually, I might have recommended it to myself, kind of, because I remember you have the Miss Peregrine's journal.
Right.
And I wonder if I saw that and was like, oh, I know that you've read the series. What's it about? And then I
told you.
In it, and then I was like, okay, I'll read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's similar, at least, to you seeing it on my shelves and reading it or whatever.
Yeah.
For me, it was recommended to me by your Aunt Sarah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
A while back, and then you bought me the first book.
Oh, I did?
For Christmas, didn't you?
I probably did. I just don't remember.
I thought you were the one who reminded me of that, like several months back.
I don't know.
Then I wish that I kind of regretted
getting
rid of it. But anyway, eventually I had the whole series because I kept getting them mostly from thrift stores and stuff. But I think it was because Aunt Sarah recommended it to me, and then you bought it for me either for Christmas or my birthday. So.
Probably.
Okay. What's it about?
There's a grandpa.
There's a grandpa.
We're starting off strong, people. So the main character
is a grandpa. If that's not the main character, why are you starting with a grandpa?
Because that's what I thought of first. I'm sorry. So Jacob, our main character, has been told stories from his grandfather about like crazy stuff that his grandfather had claimed to have happened to him, like during like World War II, I believe.
Like monsters and stuff.
Yeah, like monsters and powers and islands and
islands.
Islands are crazy. But then like grew up learning about these stories, but then his parents were like, nah, these are so fake. So then, yeah, I'm doing great. But then something happens that makes Jacob leave, and then he goes to an island.
We're just gonna skip over what happens to make him leave.
I didn't know if that was like a spoiler.
Well, I just mean though that Jacob sees something.
It's a family thing.
He sees something that makes him think he's going crazy.
Yeah. And then he goes on a trip to an island. and then he finds more stuff.
He goes to the island where his grandfather once lived, the island his grandfather told him stories about.
Yeah.
To try, maybe in the hopes that maybe he'll come across somebody that used to know his grandfather and might be able to help him understand what's going on.
That's as good as it gets.
And then things happen.
And maybe he's not so crazy.
So, Lena, what did you like about this story?
Oh, gosh. Okay. There are pictures in the book.
There are. It's like a little kid's book and stuff.
No. Not like that. Like, amongst the stories, sometimes there'll be, like, talk, like, in the story, there's, like, they're talking of something, and then there's a picture kind of, like, showing, like, a vintage old picture, and I feel like I kind of liked that part with the pictures. It was kind of interesting.
And that's it.
Goodness, Mom.
What?
God.
Am I not right? Am I wrong?
I mean, there were some
Do you need to
characters.
reread the book?
No, because I can think of the book. There were a few characters I didn't mind that I liked. Oh
A few I didn't mind.
man,
That's that's a rave review right there.
there were a few characters that I liked. I don't I don't actually really have anything else that I can
Okay.
I mean, I guess I went into this book thinking that it was going to be horror, and I mean, it was like not really horrific.
Horrific.
I don't know. It wasn't really like horror, but it was still kind of interesting, and it was like fantasy and stuff, and those aspects, it was kind of interesting. So I feel like that's something. About you?
It is actually, I think, pretty common for people to think it's going to be horror, partly because it's labeled as horror in some places. I don't really care for horror personally, so I was not looking forward to horror. I wasn't
Oh,
necessarily hoping it would be horror. It can be a bit little creepy, but it's not really horror. The pictures are the thing that makes it the most, maybe the
oh,
most creepy, and that's
yeah.
about it. It's got maybe an atmosphere to it, but um, I liked the mystery and the intrigue. There was a cryptic message from Jacob's grandfather that he had to try to decipher, and I
Oh,
liked how
yeah.
some of that went. And I liked the world building. It is definitely sci-fi fantasy. It's definitely more fantasy, but I think they're sci-fi kind of explanations to some of it. And I thought that he did it pretty good. The author did a pretty good job building the world around the pictures. That's how he wrote it.
Mhm.
He had pictures that sparked creativity in his mind, and he wrote the story using the pictures. Um, and then I think he ended up collecting pictures from other people. I think he did. He might have done that more later in the book. So after the first one gained popularity, he was able to connect with other people who had their own creepy like vintage pictures and stuff too. I think that the different superpowers or whatever you want to call them that the kids have, because they're the peculiar children. So it's not a spoiler to say there are kids who have superpowers.
Because they're peculiar.
I thought there were some intriguing ones. They're a little different than some of what you see in a lot of superhero type stories and stuff.
Yeah.
So I was caught up in it. It was engaging for me. What did you not like about it?
Oh, so much. Oh, I don't know. Half of it probably would be a spoiler. I mean, just I don't think I really enjoyed the writing that well, for one thing, and it wasn't actually, which is kind of crazy. It wasn't that engaging for me. Like, I mean, yeah, it was kind of intriguing and like the storyline, but like I wasn't like on the edge of my seat, like what's happening, kind of thing, you know. So, um, yeah, I feel like I remember it being a slower read for me, but I don't know for sure. I was on a trip when I was reading it, so that changes kind of things. But I took probably a lot of breaks that I might not have if it was engaging. So, um, man, things happen in the book that I don't like. It's certain things.
Like what?
I feel like it'd be a spoiler to say
Well, like what?
relationships.
Oh, I don't think it'd be that much. I was gonna mention that too.
I mean, there's like a relationship that really bothers me. Really bothered me. Really? Okay.
So the problem is to explain why does kind of spoil some of the elements of the story
Yeah.
that I think are far enough into the story that I don't that it would not be good to explain something the kind of thing where if you were writing a review for the second book expecting people to have read the first one it'd be
Yeah.
okay to mention but you can't. But yeah, I agree there's a relationship in this book that actually continues in the series a bit and I could not that is I think one of the top like two things that I disliked about
Yeah.
the series as a whole. But you said so many things, and that's really only been a little bit.
I don't know. I feel like it's. Oh my goodness. I feel like I've almost blocked out some of the book in my brain. I feel like yeah, there were some characters I just didn't like. Like I just in general, I just didn't really
I
care
feel
for
like
them.
some of the kids were kind of just
Yeah.
unnecessarily rude
Yeah.
and kind of jerky.
And like, I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, other than the relationship you mentioned, as far as this book goes, the other main thing I remember not really liking all that much about it is that like I said before, I was engaged by it, so I was really caught up in the book for a while, and then at some point I kind of realized that whenever a picture came up, the way that the author would explain the picture was actually very clunky to me.
Mm.
It didn't flow very well. It just felt forced. And I've actually noticed that same thing in other books that I've read. The 39 Clues series. The second there's the main series, and then there's a few spin-off or continuance series. And one of the continuance series I've read has pictures, and whenever the picture comes up and in the text the author describes the picture, it's weird. So
Mhm.
it's and I noticed it was I thought when that happened, I remember thinking that is the same way I felt about a lot of the times the pictures were described in Miss Peregrine books, where it's one thing to talk about to use a picture to influence a character or a situation. It's a whole other thing to literally take a couple paragraphs to describe basically in detail what's going on in the picture.
Oh.
Doing that really breaks the flow of
Yeah.
prose. So that was the thing that I think was the most attraction from it for me.
Probably skimmed over that stuff, honestly.
It sounds like you
Whatever.
kind of skimmed your way through the entire book.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually probably possible. Plus, back then I wasn't as hardcore about reading as I was, because it's been like a year since I read the book. So,
It's kind of weird it feels like it hasn't been that long, and I'm already ready to ask
I
you
don't know.
about your rating. Apparently, you liking a book is what really pads our podcast times.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I feel like maybe I do rant more about what I like about a book sometimes, because I feel like that plays a bigger impact on me. But then if I don't like a book and it's been a while since I've read it, nah, I'm not gonna think about it
It's kind of
again.
funny because I'm kind of the opposite. The more I dislike a book, the longer my reviews tend to be. The
Yeah.
more I like a book, the more I have a hard time like, talking about it
Yeah.
in a review.
I don't know.
So, what rating would you give this book?
2, 2 stars.
Well, that is.
That's very. That's actually probably the lowest rating I've ever given a book.
I give it 4.5, which I'll be honest, when I
Oh,
look,
that's so different
I
from
know.
me.
Well, when I thought back on it, when I looked at my rating, because it's been a while since I read it, I was actually surprised. I thought I had given it 4 stars, but I gave it 4.5. But I think the reason I think now, thinking back on it, that I thought that I had given it 4 was because I've read the whole thing, and I
Mhm.
think my thoughts on the rest of it have sort of seeped in, and I was thinking this is one of those series that I never gave more than 4 stars to. But apparently, I did. I mean, I was when I finished reading this book, I was really looking forward to the rest of the series. And looking back on it now, even now, I would tell you that I feel like the rest of the series just didn't stand up to the first one. But that's why I can't trust my memory, because when I look back through the ratings that I gave the rest of the series, it held at 4 stars all the way through to the last two.
Mhm.
So before I get on to talk about the rest of the series, so that you can see what you're missing, because
Mhm.
Lena has not read any more than
Yeah,
this first book. Well, of course, why would you? If you give it 2 stars, you're not
I'm
going to keep going.
DNFing the series. I'm not reading anymore. I remember the other day when it was like weeks, months ago maybe. I was like looking at series that I wanted to read, and I was like, oh, I guess the next one I have to read is the next one in the Miss Peregrine series, and then I think you were like,
Yes, it was me.
well, you don't have to read it if you don't want to, and I'm like, I guess I don't.
Yeah, I remember actually telling you, if you didn't like the first one, don't read anymore.
Which I'm like, okay, that's good, because I feel like if I did read it, I would just be like, I would have read it so slowly because I just didn't want to read it, kind of thing.
It's so funny to me that you felt that you had to keep going.
I don't like the thought of DNFing
Then
things,
don't.
so.
That's why you should have the same mindset I have. Don't think of it as
Oh,
DNFing it. If you only read the first book, just think of it as not
true.
starting the series.
That's true.
That makes it easier to DNF.
True.
Just wait till the first time you actually feel like, I really can't stand this book. I cannot finish it. Oh, it's so hard to give up on a book. It used to be. I don't have as much hard time with it now, but
Mhm.
well, sometimes I still do, because sometimes I'll still read a few more chapters because I'm telling myself this is not worth your time. Just stop. Then I'll read another chapter, and then I'll read another chapter or another day or something, and I'll
Mhm.
just finally be like, okay, forget it. This isn't worth my time.
Uh.
All right, so there's probably not any point asking you who you'd recommend the series to or the book to, right?
Yeah. I don't
Because
really
if you didn't
think.
like it, you're not going to recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, if you've seen this book and you've seen the pictures and you're looking for a creepy or horror-filled read, I wouldn't read this book. If you are looking for actual horror, I'm sure there are other books out there.
Oh yeah.
Maybe even Lena could recommend some. But I didn't. This book was recommended it to me, I decided to read it whether when I didn't even really know what the pictures looked like or anything. So I just read the book for itself and looked at the pictures as they came up, but I wasn't looking for a creepy picture. Sorry, a creepy read. The book is young adult, and I don't really remember there might have been some language, but I don't really remember there being anything that I would feel is bad for young as maybe 13 or so. So with that in mind, if you're interested in a decently built speculative fiction world with kids or teenagers because some young kids and some teenagers with superhero type powers that first have to save themselves and then possibly save the world, you might be interested in this book.
Okay.
Except not if you're Lena, because she might actually say I am interested in that, but then she did not like the book. So
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
but be warned for people who do not like cliffhangers at the end of a book, to force you to feel like you need to keep reading the series or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. The story that starts in this book does mostly get wrapped up in this book, but it also ends with like a jumping off point to the next book. So if you don't like that kind of thing, you might not want to read this book.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the rest of the series goes, there are 6 total books, and the first 3, which are the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, then Hollow City, and Library of Souls, are all sort of a more complete story. Like I mentioned, the first one has a plot that ties up there, but it still leads into more that they need to take care of these kids. And there's overall an overarching plot that is basically tied up at the end of the third book. And I think the series was originally meant to be a trilogy. The first 3 books I thought were good. I gave all of them. I gave the first one 4.5, the next one, and then the next 2 4 stars. I'm not going to say a whole lot about what they're about because sometimes even just giving a synopsis will kind of spoil the first one. And since this is a
Yeah.
review that starts with the first one, I'm not going to say a lot. But uh, the overall world that Ransom Riggs has builds, I think, is really inventive and interesting. And what was set up in the first book really came alive in the next couple, because the first book was definitely like an origin story for both Jacob and his the rest of the peculiar children and the world, and then that's why it really blossoms then in the next couple of books. For whatever reason that I don't think I could really clarify right now, I didn't like 2 and 3 quite as much as the first one, but I still liked them. And when I got to the end of the third one, I suppose overall it started to feel a little bit like these characters could never stop and catch their breath. So the pacing was maybe a little too just constantly up, like things were always happening, so much
Mm-hmm.
action, and nothing ever calmed down. It seemed like, and then when I got to the end of the third book, it tied up very nicely the 3 book story that encompassed those 3 books, and I was a little sad that some of the other characters that were this is one of those kind of series where there are a lot of like it's an ensemble cast kind of thing, and there's just it gets to where it's a little too bloated, so the author can't
Mm-hmm.
possibly include everybody all the time.
Yeah.
So some of the characters that I liked maybe would didn't get included as much, and then the ending of the third book then tied things. I already said this, but it tied things up neatly, and there was we finally get a tapering off of the intensity, and it just seemed like an ending. And then there's another book. There's 3 more books, so there's sort of like another trilogy, and that's where it starts to get a little more. It feels like a money grab. Just feels like he's just
Yeah.
trying to capitalize on it. Now, the first book in the next series, in the second half of the series, I still liked. I gave it 4 stars. It was ramped up in length as well. It was a lot longer. And it sets up another 3 book arc. And then it just felt like rinse and repeat. It just the author did not do a good enough job, I think, of getting away from the first series. Not the first series, the first trilogy. I think he needed to put more distance between the trilogies. Not just having Jacob as the main character with the same basic abilities and the same mostly I mean there are always, like, I think every book kind of adds at least some new children, some new peculiarities, but I think I would have thought it'd be better to at least to either have a completely different main character, some kind of evolution in Jacob's abilities, or an entirely different group of peculiars to focus on. So overall, it just it wasn't different enough. It wasn't unique enough from the first trilogy. So I always when I finished the series, I figured I liked the first half well enough that maybe I'd reread it someday, but I would stop at the third one, and I was not going to keep going. Since then, I have decided that I probably won't even reread it at all, and I had all of the books, and I've sold them all. I think we took them to half price books or something.
Yeah, probably.
And then that was after that you decided to read it. So I think, and I
Mhm.
do think I remember if you asked me about it, I probably told you the first one's good,
Yep.
and then you didn't even like that one. So,
Oh man.
so yeah, I think overall, I mean, I already gave recommendations, but I will add to that that if you're interested at all, I don't think it's waste at all to read the first three. If you read the first one and you like it, I would say by all means continue going. And if you're really invested by the third one, keep going. And you might like it more than I did. Not you,
Not me.
but you listening. Um, what started as a unique and what I thought it was an interesting idea devolved into just repetitive and boring mess.
Yeah.
So, if you like the first three and you don't want to possibly have it ruined for you, maybe stop there. But if it was me, I would probably force myself to keep going if I liked it enough. Not force myself, but I probably wouldn't be able to stop there just because somebody said they didn't like the rest. But be warned, whatever. And I think that is it for the Miss Peregrine series.
Okay. Join us next time when I am going to be reviewing The Wrong Prom Date by Alexandra Moody.
I am going to be reviewing Annabelle Lee by Mike Napa. No, not Edgar Allan Poe. Mike Napa. You heard it here first, folks.
Well, that's a wrap.
Until next time, I'm Christy,
And I'm Lena.
and this is
Generation Gap Book Reviews.